In 50 minutes, we join the thousands on the farm for more live sounds. First on BBC Two with a little bit of strobe lighting, how it all began with just one man on a bicycle.
His land. That day, back in 1970, saw the beginning of a cultural event which today shares a place with Ascot and Wimbledon on the British social calendar.
Is there any Travis news? That's the first thing.
Pretty girls, there we are, that's the stuff.
Has he? Gosh, that's good news. No more news from Oasis yet, and there's no rumour on that, is there? All right, that is a really good idea. Yeah, okay, bye. Bye. It looks like Travis is going to confirm. That's brilliant. I mean, the farm really is the basis of the whole thing. And the vision of the festival itself, you know, all its aspirations and all its hopes and all the joy that it creates are all based on the farm. This is the guts of the whole thing. It's where we've always done it, and she doesn't want to move. You know, we wanted to build a new offices, haven't she'd rather stay here, so...
Hello, Ruby Farm.
It's great, so this is where we do it. This is the centrepiece of the whole thing.
Number for her.
It's very accessible, we know what we're doing. No confusion. It's very single-minded. And it works.
It's got a great name, Glastonbury. It just sounds like it's like Woodstock. Just got a great name. It's one of those festivals that people always, you know, name check. Americans know all about it, you know, more than any other festival.
I think the difference between Glastonbury and other festivals is that it's got its own personality. A lot of festivals, people just go to see the bands, and they go and they have this list of, right, I'm going to go and see them, and I'll see the first half of them and go and see someone else, you know, and it's all based around going and watching bands. But Glastonbury, you go there for the whole Glastonbury experience, and the weather's a very big part of it, and everyone tends to go for, you know, for 3 days. And after, you know, a day and a half at a festival, you take on a completely different mindset.
It's December 1999, and Eavis is holding a meeting to discuss the design of a new stage in the form of a pyramid, which over the years has become a potent symbol of the Glastonbury Festival.
How high is the stage at the moment? 2 metres? 2 metres, yeah. It's quite nice bringing it low, actually. The artists really like that.
But your difference here is you lose
the rapport with the audience, you know. They love to feel that they're right there with them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're all up there somewhere, you know, they're sort of, oh, they're all up there and they're high and mighty and they're big and they're difficult, awkward people.
This year, David Bowie is booked to headline the Pyramid stage, 29 years on from his first appearance in 1971.
Yeah, that's 40 metres as well.
The stage is coming back to this tree, you see, and it's we need as much room in the arena as we can possibly get. So we're getting as close to the tree as we can. But I remember when I was a small child and my father wanting to stop me clearing out the shrubland, then it's really important for him. It was to them, if they do Glastonbury first.
Nice try. I'm not sure if it'll work. I think Reading quite like to have their exclusive bands, don't they? You know, I mean, I don't know whether they'll be totally convinced that it will help Reading if they have played Glastonbury. But you can try it.
Do we try again, darling?
Yeah, sure.
This is an important phone call. It's a subtle trick, this one, but it might work.
Melvin, there.
Melvin? At long last. So how are you getting on? But you might consider the other option. That's fair enough. I'll see you later. Okay. Okay, bye-bye. Bye. Bye. It's funny that, because he's not ruling it out.
Really?
Yeah.
Events like the annual NME Awards are excellent places for making contacts and doing business. Eavis has had a tip-off that last year's Glastonbury Festival is going to win the award for Britain's best live music event.
What are you going to do about poor Barry White? He was going to be one of your headliners.
Barry White, yes. He's got a blood pressure problem.
Glastonbury mud problems, he said.
No, he didn't, did he?
So Paul came out to me and he said, after all these years, you know, we finally meet. And I said, how about playing Glastonbury? He said, well, you invite me. He said, will you invite me? I said, yeah, I will invite you, definitely. Yeah, so maybe you've got Paul McCartney. Who knows, you know.
The winner for a musical event of 1999 in what's surely going to be probably its biggest ever year, the winner is the Glastonbury Festival.
I've asked Emily to make it her thing of the week, to try and track down Madonna with the William Orbit thing. She's so fashionable at the moment. And she's got a new single that has just come out. And so it's her task for the week, so she's able to prove herself.
Not too difficult.
Yeah, well, let's find out where she lives.
I wouldn't actually really like to just kind of step in my dad's shoes. I think it would be, I mean, it's very much sort of his thing and my parents' thing. Both, they did it together, and I think for me to sort of jump on the bandwagon and like be completely wrong, I hate all that. I mean, I will get involved, but I'll never actually like take it over solely me and just sort of, you know, run it forever, because the reason that it works and the reason that people love it and the reason that it's different and special and all the rest is because it's like one man, and you know, he's a farmer, and it was created by a couple who had this love affair, and that's why it worked, and all that sort of thing. And if I suddenly just kind of jumped on and did it, then it wouldn't really be the same.
A month before the beginning of last year's festival, Michael faced the death of his wife Jean. She died of cancer. Jean's death was commemorated in a minute's silence at last year's event. For many years, Michael and Jean had planned to make Glastonbury 2000 the last ever festival, letting go of the reins in order to have the freedom and time to enjoy their retirement together.
I dream better every night still, which is extraordinary after a year. Nice dreams, though, they sort of give me a bit of a I'm a bit of an energy boost, really. I wake up in the morning and I feel all so excited and things. One of the worst things about Jean dying is that we didn't get that space, you know, that time when we could spend just on our own, really. That's my worst regret, really, about it, because there's always a crisis looming up somewhere. And with the festival licensing or selling the tickets and getting the bands to play and all that sort of thing. I had a good cry at the time, but I don't spend my whole time such crying about it now. But because I mean we're moving on, and I just look back at the good times. We had an incredible relationship, and it just went on, you know.
The first Glastonbury Festival was born from Michael and Jean's love affair. Having been captivated by their experience at the Bath Blues Festival, they decided to hold their own gathering on Worthy Farm. And so, on the 19th of September 1970, the day after Jimi Hendrix died of a drug overdose, the Glastonbury Festival came into being.
You look very comfortable in your Superloo. Can I come and join you?
Certainly.
Ah, that's better. Well, what is your scene, as you call it? You know, what sort of pop music are you interested in? I notice you're going to have folk and rhythm and blues and so on.
Yeah, and pop as well. I'm interested in the whole field of it, really. I like Donovan very much, and I'm very keen on the Kinks, so that covers a lot, really.
It seems, I think, to many people, slightly incongruous to cite a festival here in the heart of very quiet, peaceful countryside.
Yeah, it's a super place for it. It's absolutely ideal.
1970 was weird, really, because I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest with you, and I phoned up a scaffolding firm. We built a stage, and we got some PA and things. We got some records, and we got some bands, and but that was all really. But I got a bit frightened when they all turned up. I got a bit scared when I saw all these strange folk turning up. I thought, gosh, what am I doing? They talked sort of funny lingo, and they had all sorts of weird expressions I didn't quite understand, and they kept using the word man all the time, and that they were smoking dope too, and which are things that I didn't know anything about, smoking at all, really, basically. But so there was a drug element in it, which is frightening. We tried to make it friendly by giving free milk away, and we did an ox roast and stuff, but to try and make it seem like it was a bit of a local, sort of farm thing, but like a kind of harvest festival sort of thing.
1970 proved to be a financial disaster. Eavis had to pay the £500 he owed Mark Bolan for appearing in 5 instalments from the proceeds of cow's milk. But his impromptu mini-festival was the catalyst for something much bigger. News of his hippie gathering had spread as far as London.
Very much looking forward to seeing you. And see you later on tonight. And it will be beautiful, I promise you.
Among those who had heard about it was an upper-crust hippie called Andrew Kerr. For many years he had been Randolph Churchill's personal assistant, as well as being Sir Winston Churchill's official biographer.
Yes. What did the Irish?
It was all to do with the 60s, really. I suppose it must have been the nearest thing to a spiritual experience, to having that feeling of community with lots of people you don't know, and it was it was a big high. I was completely amazed by the feeling that people had. And I said, we've got to have a proper festival, a real good one. It's got to have some significance. We're going to have, it's almost looking for a spiritual awakening. We've got to have something which has some cosmic significance. Whoa.
Dropping out of London and her conservative roots, Winston Churchill's granddaughter, Arabella, who still works for the festival today, joined Kerr in the festival movement and formed a company called Solstice Capers.
It was all very new and very exciting, and it felt very idealistic and very pure, and I dropped out quite late, really. It was sort of late 1970, and I was sort of running away from London and family and things, and I went down to Worthy Farm.
You curl around me like a fern in the spring, lie down here.
Michael Eavis's farm was the perfect venue for a festival embracing non-materialist values and spirituality. Worthy Farm lies within the legendary Isle of Avalon, a landscape rich in ley lines and myths about King Arthur and the Lady of the Lake.
When we were discussing what sort of stage it was going to be, well, the obvious thing to do was to have a pyramid, wasn't it? Because it was all to do with sacred geometry and the situation of the pyramid and Stonehenge and all that sort of thing. There was an obvious place to put the stage, which is in the bottom of the valley. I thought, if we're going to build a pyramid, we've got to have it done in the way that they used to build ancient buildings in the old days. They're all done on the same principle of dowsing the site. There are springs underneath the ground which you can detect with a dowsing rod. I use a hazel twig, and I can feel where the line is underneath.
And so, by the ancient art of dowsing, the first pyramid stage was built on a ley line running through to Stonehenge in Canterbury. It was claimed to be the first structure to be built along the lines of sacred geometry since the Reformation. In 1971, 12,000 hippies descended on Worthy Farm, casting off their clothes and inhibitions to the music of the likes of Fairport Convention, Hawkwind, the Pink Fairies and David Bowie.
It was all very new and very exciting, and it felt very idealistic and very pure, and the original hippie days were very lovely. We really felt we could change the world, you know. Didn't manage to do it, but we really believed we could.
It just broke down so many barriers, personally, between people. And it's
a love thing, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was a love thing. I don't know whether you can say that, can you? That's what it was, actually. Yeah.
1971 was quite a significant event, really, musically and artistically. It's sort of seemed to be one of the highlights of all through the years, really.
It's said that Michael Eavis developed his nous for booking bands from his years of experience in negotiating cattle prices at Taunton Market. Back in December, Eavis was desperate to get Oasis to headline Glastonbury. In the end, as he feared, Oasis went to the highest bidder, the Reading Festival.
Oh, all right, all right.
No, you can't have me like that. 580, 580, and 600 now quickly. Yes. 400. Yeah, 400, they take 400. Michael Eavis, thank you, 600.
Oasis, they decided to go for the highest bidder, and we couldn't compete with it. But as it happens, Oasis sort of bombed out this year. The record didn't sell, and they don't really mean anything anymore. I think Bobby's fine.
Emily now plays a more discerning role in choosing bands for the festival. Tonight they're off to see Primal Scream, a band mutually adored by father and daughter.
I remember driving back from school and trying to work out the words. Do you remember going, what the hell is he saying?
Quite lucky having your dad take you to Primal Scream, aren't you?
Yeah, it's quite cool having a dad to take me to Primal Scream, yeah.
Oh, I'm quite a groovy dad, you see, that's the thing.
Oh, yeah!
It's very obvious when you move into a concert as to whether it's working or not. To whether you're 65 or whether you're 16, it doesn't make any difference. I enjoy it probably more than Emily does, in fact. I mean, I would probably enjoy the
I don't know. I mean, do you enjoy the concerts more than I do? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I get more excited.
I don't think so, no.
I get more excited, don't I? I'm more excitable, I would say.
But you're more into the festival now than you were when you were a kid.
Yeah, well, when I was little, I was really scared of it more than anything else. It was kind of quite daunting having that many people just like heading towards your house in a real mission to put a tent up. It's quite scary looking at it from a child's point of view.
In festival terms, Worthy Farm had a long fallow period after the great hippie gathering in 1971. Only in 1979, the year Emily was born, did Michael and Arabella Churchill decide to have another go at staging a festival. It ended in financial disaster, leaving Eavis to offer the deeds of Worthy Farm in return for a bank loan to bail the festival out of crisis. It wasn't until 1981 that Michael Eavis finally took control of the Glastonbury Festival.
It's 10 years since the first modern Glastonbury Fair, perhaps thousands since the summer solstice was first celebrated here. But this is the first year the festival has officially had a political motive, and that motive is disarmament. This year, the profits go to the CND.
The next one that followed, it was totally me at that point. I didn't involve any hippies at all.
Supporters of the CND...
The CND thing was crucial because the festival had kind of purpose about it. To be perfectly frank, I mean, it was when Emily was born, and we were really, really bothered about the fact that Emily might be killed by a cruise missile attack or something. So people cared about the kids, basically. That's what the CND thing was all about.
1981 saw the construction of the second pyramid stage. When bands weren't playing, the pyramid conveniently doubled as a cowshed. The structure was built from recycled Ministry of Defence sheet iron, a delightful touch of irony given the festival's opposition to the bomb.
And of course I didn't get planning permission, so the planners came down and said, "Hey, you haven't got planning permission." I said, "No, well, it's a cowshed, didn't you know," sort of thing. And they said, "Oh, it's a funny shaped cowshed." I said, "Well, is there a stereotype then? I mean, what shape do you want?"
The next decade of the festival's history was dogged with problems. Eavis was now running what amounted to a left-wing organisation which stood in direct opposition to the politics of the Thatcher era. Despite its popularity with hordes of festival pilgrims, the conspicuous consumption of drugs and the chaos that came with the travellers brought Glastonbury into conflict with the local authorities. They tried to use their powers to put an end to the festival.
Police were called in from neighbouring forces to contain the violence.
The festival team and all the people involved with the festival were mostly left of centre politics because of the CND connection anyway. And the irony is that with the council full of Tory councillors, I'm approving of an event that was fundraising for a very left-wing organisation.
The 80s proved to be a turning point in the festival's history. The council refused Eavis a licence on the grounds that festival numbers were getting out of control. Only by taking the council to court and winning the case did he succeed in securing a future for Glastonbury. If he hadn't won that case, there'd be no festival today. The most celebrated case of local objection is epitomised in the 10-year war of Good versus Eavis. Anne Good has erected a large cross on land adjoining the festival site as a symbol in opposition to the dark side of the Glastonbury Festival.
It is very, very noisy. I mean, our windows rattle. And we can actually sit in our house and hear the announcements from the main stage, so it's that loud. And we have people blown out of their minds, sort of screaming outside the house at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had one last year, actually, who was in a very bad state. I had two, and we had another one who actually jumped in the stables.
That old serpent, call the devil!
There's a lot of stuff there that is on the edge of occult, which, as a believing Christian, I think is very dangerous stuff. The real drug dealers are the guys, I've seen them right here. They start in this lane. And you start here with the various kinds of cannabis, and then you move on down, and then it's the LSD, and then you get onto coke, and then you get the heavies with the balaclavas and the knives and the crack and the heroin and stuff, and then it gets really serious.
What goes on?
Oh, yes.
Well, you've seen that.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and I've even been offered drugs. I mean, me.
Just what is it that you want to do?
Have you ever smoked dope?
No, I never smoked dope. No, I haven't.
We want to be free to do what we want to do.
Never?
Never.
Never. No, I never smoked. I never smoked dope at all. No.
We want to get
You tried dope?
We want to have a good time.
You're getting into this other one about the phone box, aren't you? Dee and I were so concerned about the sort of dope element of the festival that I said to her, well, look, I've got to go and try it because you really do not know. You can't assume because it's illegal that there's anything wrong with it. We got a fellow on the farm next door that actually made just one of those little cake things. So I thought, well, I'll go and try one because I've really got, intellectually, I've actually got to work this out for myself and make sure that I've got a proper opinion about it, you know, with a certain amount of experience. So I went on to a phone box, and if you're caught in a phone box with some dope, presumably, it wouldn't necessarily be mine.
We want to have a good time, and that's what we're going to do.
And so I go into the phone box and shut the door and pretend to make some calls and stuff and eat the cake, you see, and waited for it to take effect. And then it started to make me go a little bit swimmy. And the worst thing of all about it was that the next morning at 5 in the morning when I went milking, I was absolutely hopeless. I couldn't actually focus my eyes properly. I was most unhappy about the state that I was in. So I decided that it was a really, really bad thing. I still take the view that drugs are a really bad idea. We do arrest all the dealers and things. We had 130 last year, I think. So there's a big police operation, which obviously gets my support. Because I think if people bring a little bit of dope with them or something, it's not so bad. But when you get people selling it on site, it gets really unattractive. I've always been anti-drug myself. I always will be.
It's April the 3rd, and tickets have gone on sale for Glastonbury 2000. A defiant act, given that today is also the day when the local council meet to vote on whether or not to grant an entertainment licence for Glastonbury 2000.
You all right, Michael? All right? Yeah. God, that's a silly question. All right? I think it's a silly question. Sorry, that's just like relief. That. Well, why is it a silly question? Oh. Yeah, well, I mean, it's a pretty major event, licensing and all that, you know. I always get pretty worked up about it. And the two of my key personnel are actually stuck on the motorway, can you believe it? Yes, I've got to bluff it all myself. You're a good bluffer, aren't you? Yeah, I should have been bluffing my way through for, I don't know, 30 years? I mean, it's been a struggle, to be honest with you, because we've got a fairly conservative area, and it's a pretty radical thing to do, put on this festival. It's masses and millions of people and millions of problems, you know, traffic and all that, and drugs and things. You know, I mean, it's not exactly, it's worse than asking for an airport. So here goes, your fingers crossed and all that. Which way?
On this year's agenda are all the usual issues: festival numbers, environmental health standards, traffic congestion, noise pollution, and disruption to the local community.
How many people heard this after last year's event? The music was stopped, the stage had to be cleared because of severe crushing. Now we're proposing to grant a licence for 100,500 people, knowing full well that the dance tent last year was absolutely horrendous.
And it always strikes me as being slightly ludicrous that here we are being asked to agree the principle of a licence when all the arrangements for the festival have already been made and the tickets are already on sale.
I'm not happy with the handling of the sewerage. Blowing this stuff out into the lagoon through a fence. They don't bother to put the pipes on to blow it down, they just blow it straight out the back, and you've got this fine spray going across people in tents. It's comical, really. And I think for the safety of people, we've got to go one way or the other. We either reduce the numbers and make it safe, or we give a licence for 180,000 people, knowing that this is probably what's going to turn up, given fine weather.
Can we take a vote? All those in favour?
After several hours of grilling in the council chamber, Eavis is finally granted a licence for 100,000. 500 down from last year, and a small victory for Mendip District Council.
That's carried.
Oh dear. It's every year the same though. I don't know why I bother with it really, to be honest with you.
Why you bother with what?
To go through all that grief, you know, and the one we're doing, that's the trouble with England, that's the trouble with Rover, you know. That people won't, they can't, they're so negative about a positive thing like this festival brings in all this money, all these jobs and stuff, and yet they're so negative. It's an English disease, you know, that negative strand. So, it's a bit sad in a way, really. On the other hand, you know, it is, we've got to keep going, haven't we?
The Glastonbury Festival annually donates around £1 million to charities at home and abroad. This year, Eavis visited Ghana to see how festival money is being used to help projects run by Oxfam and WaterAid.
Cynics hearing about this trip might say, well, it's all good publicity for Glastonbury.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes me nervous, actually. You're exactly right. I wouldn't have chosen myself to publicise this trip, really, because it looks a bit like saying, aren't we wonderful? But, I mean, in fact, and we're not, you know. The irony is that we can do so little, really. It gets into a sort of panic situation of what can we do to make a real difference, or you get depressed to think you can't do enough, you know, to make a difference. But for us, the WaterAid, you know, the water stuff is it's so direct, you know, it's a real benefit. I mean, we were there yesterday when they fitted the pump onto the well, and it was the first time the water had actually come out of that well, and it's so exciting, and it's such a real benefit. And it's good to know that people can make a difference to people's lives in that sense.
Okay, this is the community leader for this place, and he's very impressed for your coming and for the water that you have provided for them. They are very grateful, please, and he's very impressed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. That's marvellous. Oh, it's really nice of you. Thank you very much. You really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're very pleased to be here. It's a great application. It's a very arid and rather desolate place, this, I feel.
You're missing your cows?
Missing? Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, they're quite important part of the life, really. I mean, we've been farming, my family, at Worthy Farm for over 120 years, and it's been cows have been the predominant thing. It's a sort of sense of security, you know, with cows. It's a very important part of the family and the home and everything, and the farm and the countryside.
Michael Eavis comes from a long family tradition of Methodism. His father was a Methodist preacher in the local church, and religion has always played a significant role in his life. This is the first time that Michael has been away from England without Jean at his side. It's less than a year since she died.
When I woke up yesterday, I thought, you know, where is she? Where's Jean? You know, where's she gone? I couldn't believe that she wasn't there. You know,
then I suddenly visualised the grave. I thought, where can she be, you know? Is she home, or is she around the shops, or is she around the corner? Yeah, I completely lost all sense of reality for about half an hour. But then I suddenly visualised the grave at home, with all the flowers on and stuff. I thought, oh, that's where she is, you know. And then I could relax then, because I sort of realised with my hallucinations and things that, in fact, I was getting back to the real world again.
Back on Worthy Farm, extra land drainage is being put in place as a precaution against this year's festival being cursed with yet another spate of foul weather.
When it rains and it rains and it rains and it gets cold, and then it gets worrying, because we got so many people to look after, you know. We got shelters, we got thermal blankets and all that, but we can't shelter everyone.
In 97 and 98, images of mud and rain saturated the world's media. Tents were swept away as the site became swamped in lakes of mud. Journalists likened the situation to a refugee camp, and there was talk of whether festival organisers were up to handling the situation.
The driver was saying, this is getting quite difficult now because there's people lying in the mud and I can't see them. Well, as I'm driving down the path, and there were like people jumping on the side of the van and hanging off with their faces looking through, you know, like that. And they were like covered in mud, and it was exactly like Apocalypse Now, because they were going, "Ah!"
I'm rather famous for sort of painting the best possible picture about the weather.
So this year?
Oh no, I don't make any predictions. It's fatal to do that. I'm a bit superstitious about that too. I don't like to talk about the weather in advance because it's very uncertain. It's a very dangerous thing to do.
It wears me out. It wears me out.
In 2 months' time, Eavis is realistically expecting over 150,000 people to come and camp in his back garden. That means creating an infrastructure for a city the size of Dundee. Building adequate walls for his festival city has always been a problem.
So the overall length of the whole perimeter, so it's 4.5 miles?
Yeah.
Twice, so we got 2 fences, which is actually 9 miles of fencing.
9 miles all the way around, Michael, yeah.
Well, the fence has been a bit of a problem in so much as we get people hop over it and get under it and all that sort of thing, but we're getting better at it. You know, we're using horses now in what we call the moat between the 2 fences. We've got galloping horses, and it does tend to put people off jumping through when they see horses running about.
So you hire horses? How many horses are we talking about?
Oh, about 60. You know, they do shifts, they do 8 hours on and 8 hours off. And, I mean, it's an original idea, but it does work, though. Jean and I decided to build a pyramid this year. It's a good symbol for us, I think. We had the original pyramid in 1971, and we had the second one in 81, and now we got the third one. Open! Hey! Do I got some more? What's the symbol of the mill? Well, it's a product of I mean, it's Worthy Farm's product, really, isn't it? It's what the farm produces, you know, and it has a very rare quality to it. And I thought it's better than throwing alcohol at it, basically.
And then it's about to go up again.
Oh my God.
And then it'll probably go down there. There you go.
So there
So that actually works.
is the centre of the spring.
How does it do it?
I don't know. It's divine. The whole point of a pyramid is that it concentrates the energy, and it isn't phony. It's so difficult to calculate because how do you measure it?
Wow, that's it. It works. It works. How does it work?
Well, I think it's a knockout. I mean, it's really excellent, and it makes me feel all tingly. It's lovely.
Why does it make you feel tingly?
Well, to have been associated with it and being there at its inception in 1971, and to see it develop and see the whole festival develop. And talk about magic, I don't know. Seems very magical.
It's now just a few days before the festival, and final preparations are taking place for the biggest party in Europe. Eavis is on his way to meet members of Glastonbury Town Council, whom, after 30 years of disapproving of the Glastonbury Festival, finally want to reconcile their differences.
After all these years, you know, all the arguments and all the hostility, you know, it's finally now they're accepted it as being a good thing for the area. At one time, they weren't happy about us using the name Glastonbury. And said that, well, I consider calling it something else, you know, because they were embarrassed about it. But now, they realise now that it's a good thing for Glastonbury. And they're saying, let's be friends.
Glastonbury Council are holding out the hand of friendship by offering Michael a cutting from the sacred Glastonbury thorn. Legend has it that when Joseph of Arimathea was on his mission to spread the word of Christianity, he visited Glastonbury and planted a thorn which today still flowers at St John's Church. As a tribute to the memory of Jean, the Mayoress of Glastonbury will plant the thorn with Michael in Jean's memorial garden.
And it's just a token of peace between the two.
Oh, lovely, Janice.
In
well
memory
done.
of Jean, bless her.
Super lovely, thank you.
It's my very great pleasure.
Oh,
My very
lovely.
great pleasure.
Excellent. It just brings it all back, really, doesn't it?
Brings what back?
Just brings it all back, you know, Jean and everything, how she's not around anymore and stuff. We'll stop here to do some photographs.
Michael and Jean Eavis created an event which over the years has become Britain's unlikeliest national treasure.
Okay.
But with Jean no longer at his side, Michael Eavis is left on his own to plan for the future and the day when the Glastonbury Man will finally have to retire.
The farm would go on regardless, wouldn't it? The farm, the cows, milking, all that sort of thing would go on. The kids would carry on breeding. And life would go on the same as it's gone on here for at least 100 years. Obviously, I would like to think that there was a place for the festival in the future, that it wouldn't all finish when I finish, sort of thing. And providing it's working like it should work, and it's got an exceptional appeal to it, and it's unusually charming, and it's worth doing from all sorts of artistic and social reasons. And I'd like to think that the festival can carry on doing these things forever. I mean, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, for me, when I'm on my deathbed, to think, oh, all these things are going to carry on in the same vein, you know. But who's going to do it? Are you wondering? I wonder that as well. I haven't got any procedure really for it carrying on at the moment. I haven't really worked it out. And for me, and for Jean and I, I mean, it's a lifetime's work, and we'll do anything to save it. I even had to go to jail once, you know, to save it. But yes, it does worry me, obviously, because it's something that's so precious, it's so valuable to the whole country now, really.